would add this
Yeah,
too,
go
for
ahead.
what it's worth. I think that another layer, and I have not read about this. I have not looked on PubMed. I could be pulling this completely out of my ass, but I'm going to say
Yeah.
it anyway. I wonder if undereating also causes a lot of gallstones and gallbladder problems, and I'll tell you why. Um, my mom had a Roux-en-Y gastric bypass in 2008, and when they were in there, it was an open surgery, and when they were cutting her open, they happened upon her gallbladder and said, "Oh, it's a bag full of stones," and they removed it. So she woke up from the surgery knowing that they were going to do the Roux-en-Y, and then they basically said like, "Oh, BTW, we took out your gallbladder." And when they talked to her about it, they basically said, "Yeah, it was a sack full of stones." And she said, "Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I had some issues, like some attacks back, years ago." And the surgeon or whoever looked at her chart and said, "Oh, well, yeah, this makes sense," because she had struggled to lose weight for so many years, and she had done the Medifast diet, not as it stands in this day and age, because I think they've changed it a bit. But
Mhm.
Medifast back in like the 90s, I remember it was these very thin, watery shakes that were very, very, very low calorie and had zero taste. Maybe it tasted like a watered down foot, but otherwise it had like no taste. And I remember my mom, when she would do Medifast, she would have this collection of like weird flavorings and elixirs, and she would get like coconut extract and almond extract and blueberry extract, and I don't even know, but she had a library of these things, and they would be these nasty, watery, like 0 calorie practically shakes, and she would replace her food with those things, and she would lose quite a bit of weight because she was basically fasting.
Yeah.
And then of course you go back to eating, bear claws and pop tarts and whatever else you're eating. You go back to your normal habits, and then you gain it all back. And she did this numerous times where she would do the Medifast for like, I don't even know, like a couple of weeks or something, and she would
Yeah.
lose a bunch of weight and then she would gain it back. And when the surgeon looked at her notes, they were like, we see gallbladder problems, like we see gallstones tons in our patients who did Medifast back in like the 80s and 90s and
Wow.
like early 2000s, before whatever they changed. And now they include like really crappy crackers or something in their
Hmm.
protocol.
Hmm.
But it made me think, I'm like, I wonder if it's the cycling between low calorie, high calorie, low calorie, high calorie, or I wonder if it's just that putting your body in starvation mode. And I wonder which it is, or if it's a combination of the two. But I do wonder if under eating chronically is going to affect your gallbladder negatively. Negatively,
Negatively.
my God.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that also is going to mess with motility and your small intestinal microbiota and the MMC and all of the other stuff that we've talked about. But I do think it probably is going to have some far reaching effects on your poor little gallbladder, too.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting that you bring that up. So I even remember in dietetic school talking about this, which it's like rare when I it's rare when I utilize dietetics school stuff. But in dietetic school, you do learn about how low calorie diets cause gallstones. They never really described, or at least I don't remember the mechanism there.
Yeah.
But I know low fat, which kind of makes sense, and very low cal diets definitely cause gallstones or are correlated with gallstones.
Yeah.
Um, that's something that like is looked at a lot with like chronic dieters. So
Mm-hmm.
there is a connection there, and I know there's studies behind that.
Okay. Good to know I didn't pull that out of nowhere.
Yeah, no, you did not pull that out of
It's
nowhere,
an
and
N
that,
equals one.
yeah, and that definitely plays a huge role in like SIBO, especially because bile is super important for digestion and
Big deal.
motility. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, no, that's an interesting point. I've never really thought about that in terms of kind of sludging up the gallbladder
Yep.
with the low calorie diets from an undereating standpoint with gut issues, but totally makes sense that would be affected
Yep.
and potentially lead to things like gallstones.
Made sense to me when I heard it, but
Yeah,
conventional medicine, they're like, just keep it up until we have to yank out the gallbladder and you're good to go. No
yeah.
more pesky gallbladder.
Or I feel like there's such a knee-jerk reaction to remove the gallbladder, like with even if there's sludge or like, I've heard some sort of horror stories about that, which I'm sure you probably have too.
I've had several patients tell me that they went in and they had IBS, no signs and symptoms of gallbladder
Yeah.
disease whatsoever. And for whatever reason, their medical team recommended taking the gallbladder out, and then shocker, they still had IBS. That wasn't the problem.
Yeah.
And when we talk about it, we're like, were you having any of these symptoms? Were you getting, like difficulty digesting fat, short
Yeah.
pain, right shoulder blade? And they're like, no, no signs of gallbladder dysfunction whatsoever. And they still remove the gallbladder. I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Jeez.
No, yeah, I've heard very similar stories. It's horrifying, but
Keep your organs, folks.
exactly.
Try to at least.
PSA,
Yeah,
keep your organs.
PSA. The more you know.